Welcome back to Good Time Hunting, where today on this very fitting autumnal afternoon in Canada, we're going to be taking a look at this, the VivoBarefoot Tracker Forest ESC, the absolute pinnacle of the VivoBarefoot Tracker range. And if you're unfamiliar with the Tracker range from VivoBarefoot, it is their hiking specific arm. It is where they really throw all of their time, effort, energy, research and development into creating the very best barefoot hiking shoes that they can, with the ESC in this product's name referencing escape. Now the Tracker Forest itself actually comes in two different colours. It comes in bracken, which is what I'm holding right here, which is a lovely sort of deep brown colour with a tan sole, and it also comes in a lovely black obsidian. On the VivoBarefoot website, they say the following about this boot: that the Tracker Forest ESC is designed to work in harmony with nature, allowing you to connect to the most extreme forest and off-road conditions in the world. Escape the path well trodden and experience how hiking is supposed to feel. I have personally owned these shoes for about a year and a half now. I've used them primarily in the fringe seasons, where we are right now, deep into autumn, a little bit in the winter season, also into spring, and in summer on the cooler days. Anything that I talk about in this video is going to be based on my own experience and what you might expect if you get these shoes for yourself. It is also worth pointing out that I have used these shoes in snow conditions, which they're not necessarily quoted for, but is a fantastic test of the waterproofing that they claim to have. From the factory, these shoes do not come with a waterproof membrane. It is the leather that VivoBarefoot has chosen to use for this shoe that provides that waterproofing. These come supplied with some natural wax, which you're supposed to apply onto the leather at regular intervals to not only keep it supple and extend the lifetime of the actual boot itself, but also to provide some waterproofing. I can absolutely attest that out of the box, these shoes do come with a good degree of waterproofing. However, as with any leather hiking boot, you should expect a little bit of leakage. It is only natural to expect that. When you apply the wax at regular intervals, that certainly is drawn out. But if you're on a multi-day hike, 2-3 days in wet conditions like we've got right here, right now, you can expect for there to be some leakage into that leather. And the downside is leather, as with any leather hiking boot, you are going to find it very slow to dry. Now the upside about this boot, and I'm not sure if you'll see it, is that it does come as standard. Let me adjust the focus just in case. It does come as standard with this mesh inner lining. Now that has been a bit of a revolution for me, because any standard leather boot that I've used in the past from more traditional brands hasn't had that feature. And what that allows is for breathability within the boot. It allows a microclimate to form around your feet. It means on even the hottest, wettest of days, your feet can still breathe. Leather is not known for being a breathable material, but that microfiber, that allows any moisture that's trapped in there to move out into the material and then travel up and out of the boot. It also helps keep your feet nice and warm on cold days and cool on hot days. That said, because it is a higher boot, if you are often hiking in hot conditions where we're talking 25-28 degrees and over, these would not be my boot of choice. I would say 25 degrees is about the comfort limit. Anything over that, even with that permeable, even with that breathable membrane, you're going to find your feet getting really quite hot, sticky, probably, yeah, just getting quite uncomfortable. A little bit of trench foot will start forming. So I'd say 25 degrees centigrade is about the limit for these boots. As you might expect from any barefoot brand, there is a lot of flexibility in this shoe as well, a massive amount, particularly compared to a more typical hiking boot. They've really gone a level above with this shoe, however. Let me give this one a clean. So I've been using it for about a year, and I don't clean them very often. But the unusual thing about this brand, the real sort of pull for me when it came to this sole, was that they are in association with Michelin. So they have decided to use Michelin rubber as the material on the sole. Hand on heart, this is hands down the best sole that I have experienced on a boot, on a trail running shoe, on anything. I have implored, like literally, being on the phone to guys at Vivo being like, you need to use this sole on more of your shoes. I don't think they do at the minute, but this Michelin sole with these like deep, thick, claw-like tread pattern is absolutely unreal. Like the level of traction that you get from this sole is miles above anything on the market, and because it's got such a flexible sole as well, if you're new to the world of barefoot, having that thin flexible sole means that you have an incredible amount of dexterity. Let's say that you're walking along in a forest, happy, and you tread on a rock or a log or whatever, and it starts to roll. Now in a typical mountain boot, and the reason why so many people twist ankles when they're out hiking is because with that thick sole, you have no idea that your foot's going until it's already gone. It's too late to save the day. The interesting thing about these boots is, one, because of that flexibility, that pliability of the sole, you can feel the twig as soon as you step onto it. Any movement, and you can already, you know it's happening, so you can correct it before it even happens. I've never once twisted my ankle in barefoot shoes, purely because you are so in tune with the ground around you. Part two, however, is that the traction on these is so ridiculous that the chances of you actually losing any tread whatsoever, losing any grip, is like nil to none. Not just in the frontal plane, not just when you're walking along, but if we look at like the finer details on this shoe, I'm not sure if you'll see it with the light, but if we look at the finer details, just here, this finning, right, this is for lateral traction, right, and it comes right the way up onto the side of the shoe here, and on this side as well, right the way, even all the way up here. I hadn't noticed that before. But that's for lateral traction, right? So as you're traipsing sideways up, let's say if you're going a really steep hill, like super steep, and you're not going straight up it, you're like skiing your way up, that it's just digging in, like 24/7, 365, like they're just digging in. On the way downhill, which, I'm 110 kilos, 235, 240 pounds, the downhill is where I make the most mistakes, just hands on heart being honest here. There is a fucking, pardon my language, there is an absolute unit of a lug on the heel, right? So as you're walking downhill and you're digging those heels in, you've got this massive claw-like lug just digging into whatever you're putting your foot into. So seriously, unless it's like smooth polished granite where like nothing's going to stick to it, you are just not going to go anywhere. You are going to be so solid on your feet with these shoes. They honestly are incredible when it comes to grip. Another really nice feature that they've done, and this one's going to be really hard to see, but I'll try and get you guys to see it. There we go, this one's looking a bit cleaner. A really other nice feature that they've done is when you look at the toes of the boot, on these two lugs here, you're going to notice a little bit of a kink in the lugs. Now what that is for articulation of the toes. So as you're walking, those lugs have got more flex, right? So your toe, as you're walking, goes from being in like a traditional hiking shoe where it's all bunched up and you can't really do anything with it, you just bits of plastic clomping on the ground like fucking unicorn or something. What you're doing instead is you're allowing your toes to spread out, because we're in a traditional barefoot shoe. And in a barefoot shoe, instead of being clumped up together, right, your toes actually have the chance to spread out, and that's where you're going to get more traction, more grip. And not only that, because of that articulation in the toe, you can start using your toes like claws, right? Like literally digging into the ground. So between that wide toe box where you've got those splayed feet and you're getting more traction, more stability through the foot, to being able to actually dig your toes into the ground because of that articulation in the lugs that allows you to actually use your toes the way that they're meant to be used, to the sheer aggression of the lugs, not only through the frontal plane but also on the sides and on the back. Like this is the sort of boot that you would wear for pretty much anything, right? You could wear it literally, I've worn it everywhere, anywhere. In deep snow conditions in the Lake District, I've worn it hiking up mountains in the Pyrenees. I'm in Canada at the minute, I've worn it just for pottering down to the shops, gravel tracks, wherever. The only thing that stops it from being a true, like anywhere, anytime, anything hiking boot is this. The insole, right? Now this is a tiny problem, but if you're gonna do anything in cold weather, I'm in Ontario at the moment, it gets down to, pretty chilly temperature. It gets down to -30 in the winter. If you're going to be doing anything like that, any sort of deep winter stuff, anything where the temperature's getting below, floor temperatures, getting anywhere below sort of 0 degrees, I would go onto the Vivo website, I would buy some of their thermal insoles. They've got incredible thermal properties, and it's just going to help keep your feet a little bit warmer, which is going to extend the longevity of your hiking ability. But aside from that, these really are, and I hate to say this, right, because there's so many different boots out there, but they are the only hiking boot that you'd need. If you turn around to me and said, right, Clem, I need a hiking boot, I would say this is going to, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of what you're going, unless you're just walking down to the shops or something, in which case this is an expensive option, like this would be the boot that I would turn to. If you're just doing winter mountaineering, yes, there's others that I would definitely recommend. I'll do a video on that at a later date. But for general hiking, for general moving around, it's an incredible boot. Now, I am going to fault find because it's important to do, right? I don't just want to turn around and blow smoke up your ass and say this is completely flawless, because it's not. I have heard complaints about this this little tie-up section right here, under certain conditions, causing tension on the outside of the ankle, right? Being a pinch point for some people. Now, I do have an opinion on that, because I have an opinion about most things, right? When you transition into barefoot shoes, barefoot boots, particularly if you're coming from mountaineering of any, you know, shape or form, where you're used to having thicker plastic, less flexible shoes, you're used to ratcheting your boots up nice and tight, so that if you do go over on your ankle, you're less likely to twist it. When you come into barefoot shoes, because of the flexibility of the sole, because they are so much more tactile, because your foot is supposed to be able to move around a bit so that it can act as the tool instead of the boot being the tool, the boot's just the middleman, right? Your foot's supposed to be the thing doing the work. If you come over and try and transition straight in and get used to just ratcheting everything up, ratcheting this up tight, ratcheting these up tight, then yeah, I could absolutely see that this is going to be a problem. However, personally, and for lots of other people I know that do barefoot style stuff, we keep it pretty loose, right? This I would tighten up a little bit. Obviously, your foot's going to expand as you're hiking throughout the course of the day, so I'd tighten it up, but not excessively. And up here, I leave things pretty loose. The chance of you going over on your ankle are never going to be zero, but I haven't once gone over on my ankle throughout, you know, the many years that I've been barefoot. And you really have to experience it to know what I'm talking about. But if you do get into barefoot, either with these shoes or any other type of shoe, you're going to know exactly what I'm referencing here. The second problem that I see with this boot is because of the material. It's a wild hide leather. It does have to be treated. Vivo does provide that wax for you, as I think I mentioned earlier in the video. But in order to retain their waterproofing properties, you've got to treat them. In order to be able to keep the longevity of the boot, you have to treat them. And as you can probably tell from the wear on the boot at the moment, like the general scuff marks, I haven't treated this in a while. I'm in Canada at the moment. I travel around quite a lot. I'm, you know, in Bali next week, at the moment in Canada. Last week I was in Florida. I move around a lot. And I'll be the first to admit that at times my admin isn't great. I forgot my wax in England, so I haven't treated these boots for like 3 or 4 weeks now, and you can tell. And the downside of that is that on a day like today, where it's a bit rainy, there's puddles on the floor, there's probably going to be, if I go out, like streams to cross, rivers to cross, whatever, I'm proactively going to choose not to take these boots, because I don't want it to get waterlogged, I don't want the leather to start breaking down, I want to look after them. They're incredible boots, I don't want to fuck them up. There are ways around that. If you find yourself in a stitch, you could just go down to a pharmacy, get some beeswax chapstick, the sort of stuff that you put on your lips that have got very little additives in them, and you could, in theory, apply that to the boot. It's the exact same thing. If you put that on the boot and then rub it in with like a sponge or, you know, a soft cloth or something like that, that's going to help retain the waterproof properties of these boots. But that's literally the only thing I would complain about. Everything else on this boot is incredible. If you've seen my other reviews on Vivo shoes, you'll know that I'm not one to mince my words. I will say when something is wrong, and there is literally nothing to fault about these boots other than the fact that you have to remember the wax, and if you don't, then yeah, your feet might get a little bit wet. But in the grand scheme of things, compared to what these boots are capable of, and compared to what you'll be capable of doing because of these boots, that is a very, very small price to pay. Thank you so much for watching this good time hunting video. Please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you have gotten into barefoot shoes. Let me know if you're thinking about it. Have you got these boots? What do you think? Are there any competitors that you think that I should try? Please get into the comments section down below. Let me know what's going on. But as always, thank you so much for coming to Good Time Hunting. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you in another video again very soon. I'm off for a hike.